What's going on, Los Angeles, Bruin Nation, LAFB fam, the Madman and Thriller back together again for all of your UCLA football needs. And before I say anything else, you see the esteemed gentleman to our left, the man, the myth, the legend, the one and only Silver Fox, Mr. Wayne Cook. We've been promising to have Wayne on the show here for about a good 10 or 12 days. We finally were able to make it happen. And before we jump in, I know, Wayne, you're going to have a lot to say here, rightfully so. But just how are you? How's life? We haven't seen you in 3 weeks. And we were joking offline that it's felt like 30 years.
Yeah. First of all, I mean, people don't know this, but we just talked for 25 minutes before we even start. So it's great to see you guys. I almost feel like I want to start tonight. And I know you probably don't want me to do this, but I feel bad because, a lot of us, and this is going to be a little bit of an excuse too, and I don't like making excuses, but I think we live in an era where the prognostication of teams is getting harder and harder and harder because we bring in Tino and we know what happened at Indiana, but we also know that he wasn't necessarily the play caller. And then I'm out of practice, and this is not because I like Tino a lot. I really do. I enjoyed being around him, and I watched him as a quarterback coach, and I was impressed with what he was doing. That doesn't always mean that you're where you need to be as a play caller. I think people underestimate how important sequencing and how you set up plays, and that you can't just have a great offense in your mind and just say, "Hey, you have to call plays at the right time," and there hasn't been any fluidity. So I think when we came out of camp, we had all these transfers, we had all these players, and I was like, it was probably the first time in a long time where I didn't have a good idea of watching players that were freshmen and then sophomores and then juniors. It just felt like I was watching an entirely, especially on defense, right, guys? It was like an entirely new team. And so you watch camp and they're competing against each other. You see, Nico out there, you see Jet Thomas out there, you see all this stuff going on. You're like, we look pretty good, but you're playing against each other. And then you see it against the real opponent, and you're like a Utah, you're like, oh, crud, well, then maybe Utah's really good. But then you see the Texas Tech-Utah game, you're like, oh, crap, maybe Utah's not that good. And if you just contain a mobile quarterback, he's not as good, and we couldn't do that. And then you go on through the debacle that was most of the at least the first half of the UNLV game. And then the New Mexico game was rock bottom. Then you have the coach being fired, and you have all this stuff. So, this stuff has been amazing, and I feel like I don't want to let the Bruin fans down because I was more excited. And again, I said the floor I thought was going to be 6. And if things went well, and we got a big-time quarterback coming in, but it went the other direction. And so, now we're trying to figure out when we look at the schedule going forward, and we've lost both coordinators and the head coach, where do we get a win? That's where we're at now. We're not at how do we get to bowl eligibility? It's where do we get a win? And so for me, I'm feeling for the players. I'm feeling for the coaches that are still left. But I'm also, there's a part of me that's like, you guys, you're still the guys on the field. You should have beat Northwestern. You shouldn't have waited till halftime to figure it out. But I also noticed Tim Skipper and company made more changes in 1 week and in one game. It's crazy. I've interviewed him twice now, and I'm like, hey, why aren't we not letting any of these running backs? Because I feel like I can ask him these questions. And he looks at me and goes, I didn't even notice that, Wayne, until we started watching film. And I'm like, how are these running backs going to get in any sort of a rhythm when every time they make a good play, they get taken out, another guy goes in? I'm like, this is the most insane thing I've ever seen. And so it's almost like he's like, yeah, we're going to start seeing these things. And I feel like changes are happening. The problem is Penn State's sitting there waiting for us, right? It's not exactly like, wish we had an extra week or another game before we played Northwestern. And then we could see where we were at going forward. But it's kind of a rough one to make all these changes and then try to be ready for a team that good.
No, a great point, Wayne. And, you alluded to it. We'll start here with the latest of the breaking news that we've had over the last 3 or 4 weeks. Offensive coordinator Tino Sunseri mutually parting ways with the team. Wayne, would want to kind of get your impressions here. From my vantage point, this kind of makes sense on both sides, to be very honest with you. You know, when you're UCLA football, you talked about it. I've sort of alluded at this point to this 2025 season being now an extended training camp for 2026. And who are the players that will stay post transfer portal, and who are the players that will stay and that we can build around moving forward? And so this now is all about development. It's about finding a win, maybe two, but this is really all about development for 2026. And so there's a different direction the football program is headed. And then when you think about it from Tino's perspective, he was hired by DeShaun Foster. He's not there anymore. There's going to be a new head football coach at the end of November, beginning of December. It probably won't be Tim Skipper. And so he's probably going to be out anyway. And I think for Tino, there's an opportunity to kind of hit the reset button, kind of get out at 0-4. I don't think you necessarily want to be associated as an offensive coordinator with the 0-12, 1-11 season. I think there's a very high likelihood that he goes right back to Indiana as an analyst with Kirk Cignetti and helps Indiana make a push in the Big Ten, resets the board a bit, and then looks for his next opportunity. Almost like a micro Lane Kiffin, Steve Sarkisian type of situation of a micro kind of career rehab before he goes off to his next spot. So it sort of makes business sense from Tino's perspective to leave now. I think it opens up the opportunity. We talked about our old friend Noel Mazzoni is back into the mix here, guiding and perhaps mentoring Jerry Neuheisel, who we're so excited getting his break and his shot to be the play caller. He bleeds UCLA just like his dad. And so we're so excited about the possibilities for Jerry, a really unique opportunity here. So, Wayne, just your thoughts about Tino out, Jerry in, and how you're kind of seeing things.
So this is a loaded. I'm going to start at the end there because I will say this. Jerry Neuheisel has been a really, really good coach at UCLA. The tight ends love him. The receivers loved him when he was there. He's a very smart guy. He's always energetic, and you said it. He loves UCLA. I hope whatever happens for the rest of the year, I hope it shines on him and shows that he can do this. And what I think when you bring up the Noel Mazzoni stuff, I think it's more important just to have that comfort level in that Jerry's fine. Like I know he hasn't been a play caller, but like this is a cool opportunity for him. But for him to feel comfortable with someone that helped raise him as a young player, I just think it's great to have a mentor like that, that you can lean on a little bit. I think it was a really smart move. And again, Noel Mazzoni is known for making offenses simple. Like if you go back even to Josh Rosen's freshman year, I actually thought that was his best year, spinning the ball around with Noel calling the plays, if I remember right. And it was almost like an opportunity for a young quarterback to get out there and kind of just let it rip and show what kind of arm talent he had. So I think that maybe just some of those ideas will be really, really important. And I think they can bounce those things off each other and feel comfortable about it. Big picture stuff like with Tino. I was thinking about this when people start thinking about players leaving. I'm like, what do the players do at this point? Like, I get it. If you still have a redshirt year, like you might be thinking, I might want a red shirt. But like if you're a player like Scott Taylor, who I noticed first day I saw him at practice, like, who's that guy? Like, I like the big number 20s that played for UCLA. It was Kane last year. I like this guy. And Tim Skipper's like, yeah, we notice him in practice all the time. And I'm like, then play him like more. And they did against Northwestern. And so that's great, right? So like the idea is that some of these guys are going to get opportunities, whether they don't fit in with the new coach that comes in, because that's going to be a big deal, right? Like these players are going to have to decide. And whoever the new coach is going to have to recruit the current players that they want, because that's a big deal too, right? And then, there'll be a lot of factors, but I think about this with coaches too. Or like even with a player like Nico. Like what, and again, I've already told you guys, Nico's been as tough as nails. He hasn't been perfect. The line hasn't been blocking that well. The pocket collapses on him all the time. I actually thought they should run him more, and they did last week, and I thought it helped because we're having such a hard time getting things going. But if you're a player like Nico, think about all the publicity that has come your way after what you did before, if you were to step aside and leave again, like that's a tough call.
Yeah.
You got to really think about the PR there. Some of the other players aren't going to have the same visibility as he would. But, you know, a big part of me thinks he'd be better off sticking this out and then make the decision after the season. And that's up to him and their family. I mean, all these players, they're put in a really tough situation. Not just head coach, but both coordinators. I mean, you can't blame a kid for thinking about it at least. But it seems like most of the players are hanging around. And, you know, and if they can do some good things, I mean, it says a lot about them. If they can do some good things, it can help. And then hopefully whoever the new hire is someone that people go, okay, hey, maybe I want to stay. And so we got to hope that's what happens going forward. But, you know, I thought about what you said about Tino going back to Indiana. I don't know. Signetti seems interesting to me. Like, he might say, screw you, dude. But, you know, I mean, could you see Signetti saying that? I mean, you left us. You didn't want to be a part of this. Like, I don't know if he'd say that or not. So, like, I don't know. But I will say this, though. Tino, I really did like him. And again, I still do. If I see him, I'm not going to. I mean, I really thought he tried his best, and it didn't work out. And so I like Nico Iamaleava a lot too. I mean, I consider these guys friends, and so we want to see all these people succeed. But it doesn't work out that way. And at the end of the day, UCLA football can't be what it is right now. It can't be. And I'm talking about players, I'm talking about coaches, and I'm talking about administrators. Like, if top to bottom, everybody involved, how we promote the school, what we're doing on social media, what we're doing with even the Bruin broadcast, like all of this stuff needs to be looked at, and we need to start acting like we're what we want to say UCLA is, which is big time. That's what I think we need to do, and not just say it, but it's got to happen at all levels, and all the way from the top, all the way down to the long snapper and the kickers and the water people and everybody involved. We need to make football at UCLA big time. That's what I want, and I think that's what a lot of former players and alumni and you guys as well as me, we all want that.
No question. Thriller, over to you. Your thoughts.
Yeah, the Tino Sunseri thing is tough, man, because we all came in, we all were speaking about him like a huge OC hire, and it just didn't pan out. It was, just rough at the beginning circumstances. You could kind of see it in week one. We just weren't the team we, thought about. We had, Ben Bolch on here too, talking about how he said the ceiling of the team was like 9-10 wins, and we were kind of like, yeah, we could see a world. We got a star quarterback. We got these transfers coming in. All the reports out of practice are pretty positive coming out from there. So we just didn't know. But I think it's a really cool last chapter for Jerry Neuheisel, who we do not know if he's coming back. Madman, you know this as well as anybody. We thought about him as maybe like our dream case scenario of him eventually taking the car keys to the UCLA program in the future. I mean, how cool would that have been? Rick's son, the quarterback who had the game-winning throw against Texas in the blue and gold, taking over for the program. And, just to see him get these offensive coordinator, reps. These are huge, man. The OC is, up there with the top 3 coaches within the entire sport. So very, very excited about that. And just to kind of pivot, I want to ask both of you guys this question. When it comes to what we expect of the next head coach. And I'll start with you, Wayne. We are hiring a head coach for the first time, or the second time in 24 months. It's a big time hire, and I don't think it's hyperbole to say that this is the biggest hire in UCLA football over the last 40 to 50 years, given what this means. What qualities are you guys looking for in a head coach for UCLA to take back this program and get it back to the place that we believe it can be? We talked about it pre-show. We've seen some of these things happen, whether it was Matt Rule at Baylor and Temple when he completely turned those programs around. Sarkisian went up to Washington. They didn't win a game in the late 2000s. He got them to a bowl game the next year. We need people and inspiring people like that to bring UCLA back. Wayne, I'll start with you. What coaches qualities. And if you have a candidate that you're interested in, please, chime in. But what qualities are you looking for when it comes to the next head coach of the UCLA Bruins?
So I don't necessarily want to throw out names. I really don't want a retread unless it's the right one. I mean, I know that like to me, it feels like, especially over the last couple of years, that it's really important that a coach embraces the current state, whether you like it or not. Like it's like I don't always love the current state of. I mean, the games are still great, but the some of the nonsense that goes on outside of it is rough. But man, you have to have a young, innovative coach, like a Kenny Dillingham type guy, like someone that's like it feels like Dabo right now, like on the other end of it, is so kind of high strung, and he's fighting and fighting and fighting. We saw it happen with Oklahoma State. And coaches that had remember it was 17 years ago when he said, I'm a man, I'm 40 years old.
Oh, yeah.
Gundy. I mean, you have to get someone that's got the energy to show up at the booster events, to shake hands, to kiss babies, to be a politician and a head coach, to sell the program, to be willing to do a coach's show, to be willing to do things that promote the program, to be willing. Matter of fact, I think that should be a necessary part of the hiring process. Like you've got to be more than just a head coach now. You really do. And if you're like, I don't really want to hang out with boosters and raise money, well, then we're probably going to need to look somewhere else, because you kind of have to do that now. And so, like, for me, we brought up Cignetti earlier, and one of the coolest things about Cignetti is when he left JMU, and again, I know you can't do this, but when you leave a place and you go to an Indiana, which is historically of the Power Four programs, one of the worst historically ever. Yeah. And he shows up with, a whole bunch of his players who transferred along with them, and you saw an immediate turnaround. Surratt's one of the best receivers in the country, in my opinion. I love this guy. You can watch him play all day. He's just a big, athletic, good hands, good player. But, I almost, I'm going to say something else here too. I almost feel he feels like he's kind of a tyrant in the way he leads his program. Like, man, this is the way we're going to do things. And he expects everybody in every aspect of life on the football program to do things a certain way. And I think that sometimes we don't have that enough at UCLA. I think that there's people that are clocking in and clocking out, and they're not staying until the work's done. They're leaving when the workday's over. And to me, there's a difference. And so, I'm doing a radio show at 9:00 at night, or a podcast with you guys, because I love UCLA football. I didn't take off where I taught 8th graders all day today. I played 18 holes of golf and came in second, and I'm pissed off about it because I lost by 2 strokes. And then I did the Bruin Insider Show, and now I'm doing this because I really do want UCLA to be successful, and I want everybody to care. And so this is a long-winded answer, but we need someone that comes in, is not going to tolerate the guy over there that's not doing everything they can, even if you may not think that person's important. I would argue that everybody's important in a program. If you're a Nick Saban, trust me, you know what everybody is doing in your program, and you also find out if they're not doing their job. And those people find a way to disappear. I don't mean disappear from the face of the earth. I mean they just go away and get another job. I'm being serious when I say this. I mean, if you want to be really, really good and you're going to take this seriously, the coach that comes in has to, one, believe. Don't just take the job because you're getting a paycheck and you have a big name. I want someone that comes to UCLA that truly believes that when people like myself and Matt Stevens and Tom Ramsey and Troy Aikman say this team can be Maurice Jones-Drew, these players are like Anthony Barr, Pat Cowan, these players are like, we can win. We've done it before. And so I really believe that whoever it is, without a shadow of doubt, walks in going, we're going to do this and we're going to make it happen.
Yeah, no, Wayne, I mean, so well said there. I completely agree with you on all of those characteristics of there's got to be a fire, an intensity, a drive, the ability to galvanize boosters, the ability to have the PR, the ability to have the recruit. I also think there's kind of a fundamental level element here, Wayne, of how UCLA thinks of itself from a football perspective. You know, while you were talking about the Signettis and the Sabins, you know, the thing that I loved about Signetti is he came in with a bravado and an arrogance, and he was at that Indiana basketball game, and he said, Michigan sucks, and Ohio State sucks,
right.
and we're going to go beat everybody. And this was an 80-year drought, essentially, that Indiana had in football. And a lot of people, you know, he still rubs so many people the wrong way because of there's sort of an arrogance there. But frankly, I think UCLA needs an edge. They need a coach with an edge in football. It's been a little bit too much of a congenial program over the last 25 or 30 years, if you ask me. And I go back to that when you were talking about Tyrant Wayne, you know, the famous Michael Jordan line, right, in The Last Dance. He says, you know, when people watch this, they're going to think, you know, man, he probably wasn't really a nice guy. Well, maybe he was a tyrant. Well, no, that's you because you never won anything, you know. And I think we need we need to bring that to UCLA. And the playbook to be successful in the Olympic sports is a completely different playbook to be successful in football. And I think we have to acknowledge that. You know, one of the things, Wayne, it was such a great conversation. You know, when we saw each other at Big Ten Media Day, I know you had that great conversation with MJ about all the championships, you know, that we won in the Big Ten year one. But in all honesty, it's only 3 sports. And, you know, the others are glorified intramural sports. We love them. They make us very happy. But at the end of the day, there's 3 revenue-generating sports in the world today, and football outweighs all the other 2 by orders of magnitude. So if you want different results, you have to think differently, you have to act differently, and you can't be afraid to ruffle some feathers. And I think UCLA needs an edge. I think too often with football, we talk about, well, it's the greatest university in the world, and the academics and the education. It's all of those things. Of course, that's why we bleed UCLA. But this isn't badminton. You know, this is football. And, you know, you need some dudes, you need some guys, and you need some swagger, and you need an edge. And our alumni community, our fans need to be okay with that they need to be able to compartmentalize UCLA, the university, from UCLA, the football program, because they need to be compartmentalized. Those are 2 very, very different things. And you can't measure success with one playbook for the university and have that same playbook for the football program.
So, first of all, that really well said. And I agree. And I even will say this, because I think people underestimate how great Terry Donahue was. And I say that because he dealt with some of the same stuff you're talking about and still won. And I think he had to fight, scratch, and claw to do that. And he recruited future Hall of Famers, NFL Hall of Famers. He recruited future, you know, NFL Super Bowl champions. He recruited some amazing people and did it in a way where he still had some of the school to fight. I even had conversations with him where he told me if UCLA could ever figure out that we could be elite at football, we'd be dangerous. So he was trying to overcome a lot, and that was with chancellors like Chancellor Young, who was trying to call plays on the sidelines. He was so close to Coach Donahue, and then we went through, you know, some others that maybe didn't seem to see football the same way. Now we have an opportunity because we have and so far it looks like Julio Frank is going to be someone that really cares. Like there's been changes that have happened right away. We know what he did with Mario Cristobal in Miami to get them back to where they may be as good as anybody in the country right now. Like Miami is dangerous. So like the idea is that I fully agree, but I don't think this problem has gone away. But here's what, and I've talked about my past a lot. But when I was in school, we wanted softball, right? When I first got there, Lisa Fernandez and company were there. You know, when my senior year was Tyus Edney and Ed O'Bannon and Charles O'Bannon and Toby and all these guys, we won a national championship. We won the 1993 Pac-10 championship in football and played in a Rose Bowl. Like, we were pretty much good at a lot of sports. I think volleyball was good. Gymnastics won a championship. Like, we were winning in those, but we were also winning. And remember, I almost would argue with people that in basketball that right before that, when the O'Bannons came in and there was still Tracy Murray and Don McClain on the team and Gerald Matkins, I mean, that team should have been a national championship. That was an era of we were doing it And I guarantee you that Valerie Condos Fields and all the different people that were coaching gymnastics, and they were going, please keep being good at football and basketball, because those two sports are carrying, and I've heard coaches say this before, when those two sports are doing really, really well, it just feeds the rest of the school and the rest of the program. So to your point, the Olympic sports aren't going to go anywhere.
Exactly.
But if the two main ones are doing their job, those Olympic sports are going to be even better. And I think from what I'm hearing that Julio Frank gets it. Like that, I think he sees that, and he sees that a big time football program can be the lifeblood of a university. And I think we need. So I love what you just said. I just said it a different way, but like it can happen, and it has happened. But I just think it's sad that when we listen to the national media talk about UCLA, and they say things about, oh, they don't have any money, they don't really care, they don't really like. Where is the voice that is this of the school saying, you know what? We just put in a new weight room. We're putting brand new turf, which the timing wasn't great. But we're putting a new. We're spending money. They've said to the former players, we're going to try and get the best coach we can. We're going to put the best people together. We're going to go out and find. They haven't acted like money's an issue. If it is or isn't, tell the people what the plan is. Stop letting the national media tell us how much trouble we're in, how we don't care. Don't let that happen. You have to have a voice. Defend yourself. It's like you're kind of getting picked on right now, and you're afraid to stand up for yourself. And it bothers me because I don't have enough of a voice. I wish, 10 million people would listen to us when we do these things. And I know it's only a couple million, but, we need to get more. That we need to stand up for ourselves and be proud of the university that we are. And even if we are financially struggling a little bit, because we know COVID kind of had some impact and it seems like we've spiraled a little bit, but we're also in the Big Ten now. We're getting a lot more money from the conference that we're in. And I guarantee you that someone at the great university that UCLA is has a financial plan going forward. It's okay to say that. We're fine. We know what we're going to do. We have a plan. Like my joke is always, we invented the internet. We can figure this out. Sorry. I told you I was going to be a little bit. I told you I was going to be a little delirious today.
No, Al Gore, and I know you're a history teacher, Wayne, so you know this. I invented the internet. That was his famous line in the 2000 election.
I do remember that.
Yeah,
Taylor, I know you wanted to add some things, so please over to you.
No, everything you guys laid out was exactly what I want to see in the next UCLA football coach. So it would be an injustice to add upon those beautiful answers you guys laid out. Wayne, you were on that call, with 100 former UCLA players on that Zoom with the current administration. What can you share about that call to the public and to us about how that call went, and what was the types of conversations that were being talked about in that room with so many of our football alumnus out there?
Yeah, well, I think the most important thing I can share, and I'm not going to get too detailed, it's just how many people showed up. I mean, it was a who's who from multiple decades, from current players all the way back to players from the 60s that were struggling to figure out how to work a Zoom call. I mean, it was a good group of people. Some great athletes. We had Super Bowl champions. We have people on there that are making millions of dollars being broadcasters right now. There's some and has 3 Super Bowl rings. I mean, there were people that care. And a few people got to talk. It wasn't as much. This was kind of like a starting point. And I just think that moving forward, I think one of the things that frustrates people, and I'll even say this, when I first started broadcasting UCLA football games, the environment was very much like a college game. I still have never figured out, and it's bothered me more recently than it should have, but I can't figure out why our band can't be at the first 2 games, even if they're not in school yet.
Yeah.
The football players have to be there. You're in the band. I imagine a lot of these guys got scholarships to come be in the band. You show up early and you go to those games. It fills a whole section. It looks good. It sounds good. To me, it makes no sense that doesn't happen. We should have tryouts for the yell leaders on our sidelines. Yeah. We need to have people that actually know football. I want a dude out there with a big UCLA on his chest screaming and yelling and getting people to do the fight song and the A clap and all that stuff. Like, because to me, the people that are doing it are just like, it's like they're in a play. Like, here's your lines. Go out there. And they're like, okay, everybody, let's cheer for it. No, I want energy and enthusiasm of a real fan doing that, because if you see what they do around the country, they have that. Whatever we're doing is not. I have to be careful right now. I do not want to get in trouble, but like, I think we need to have the right people doing this stuff. It's important. The band being there is important. We can't be a good fan base for the first 2 games. Bullcrud. I went to the Nebraska game in 1988. That was and it was a sold-out Rose Bowl, and we knocked the crap out of them. And it was one of the greatest games I've ever been to. It was, I still remember it to this day. It was so much fun. It was the reason why, I'm coming here. I am going to UCLA because I was at that game. We can be that. We can do all those things. So, I just want. I don't even know what I was talking about when I started this rant, but. But really, we do. We need to care about every aspect of what we do. Game day atmosphere. Who's getting the crowd excited? The coach needs to talk. I mean, really important. The coach needs to act like they care about the fan base. And again, and I'll even say this: the reporters that cover UCLA, and again, I know I'm going to get in trouble for this. It feels like most of them would much rather, almost like they find a little bit of joy in the negative part of the job. Fine, that's fine. You should have some access. I totally get that. But when there's things to write that are positive, it would be great. It would be great to promote some of our elite players, some of our great assistant coaches, some of the people that are doing things behind the scenes, and make it to where instead of you're almost just waiting for something bad to happen, to be promoting the program in a positive way. Because you guys know as well as I do, when we're winning 8 games under Chip Kelly, it's still all negative.
Yeah.
It's true.
It's one of those things that it's so hard. And by the way, I get in trouble whenever we talk about that era, because it's still being blamed for everything. And I'm not saying it shouldn't be or should be or whatever. But, I just want more positivity. And I think that that's going to come from the hires that we're going to make. And if we do this the right way, we can bring in people that will inject the Bruin faithful with the positivity that needs to be there. And then obviously you have to follow it up with wins and stuff like that. That's kind of the key.
No, wait. I mean, I love what you said there. There's a couple things I want to actually double click back, about 10 or 15 minutes on a topic. And then I want to really ask you sort of a question. One is, you said something really profound. We were so worried about this season about redshirting players. And what's happened is the coaches have actually redshirted in terms of what sort of has taken place with our coordinators. And so it's just a fascinating dynamic that we have to sort of work through right now. And we talked about it earlier on the show. Are the incentives almost aligned at this stage with the Tim Skipper and the football program, right? Let's be honest, Tim is trying to audition for his next job, and he's trying to win football games. But the way he's doing it, does that make sense in terms of development of the players to have sort of a base of guys to have access to in 2026 or beyond? So just these very interesting, I think, dynamics moving forward. And I think, Wayne, you nailed it about Nico. I think that Nico is probably going to enter the transfer portal at the end of the season. And I think he and Madden are going to need sort of a fresh start, just given everything that has happened here. But I think it's paramount for him to finish the season here. And I actually think, and I've said this before, it would be a badge of honor to NFL GMs to watch him gut it out on this team with this line and this coaching staff and everything that has sort of collapsed in front of him, because this is sort of the Troy Aikman 1 in 15 year in Dallas. This is sort of what a number 1 pick, and I'm not saying Nico's going to be a number 1 pick, but this is what a franchise young quarterback in the NFL has to deal with. And this is an education that he will not get anywhere else in terms of preparation for the NFL. So I'm totally with you that I think this is imperative for him to finish the season for his own education.
Well, just quickly, and I want to go back to my senior moment that I had when I was supposed to be talking about the call with all, and then I got sidetracked and I forgot what I was talking about. I think the point I was trying to make was that there was an energy from the players that there's a lot of people that really do care, and that matters. I mean, that's that. As far as Nico goes, I mean, do you guys think about it? What has he done wrong since he's been here? He's worked his butt off. He said all the right things to the media. He's never once said anything bad about coaches or anybody else. He's busted his butt. Like, if you watch the last game, man, he's playing a physical brand of football. I mean, I think and they ran him on purpose. I mean, he had 15 carries or whatever he had. Yeah. Way more than the running backs are having. And I think we're going to see a change in that. I really do. I think more running backs are going to get action. But he's done everything he's been asked to do. And then when you start breaking down his throwing, you know, there's little things like Matt Stevens, even on the touchdown to Quasi, it was late. And he it was funny because I was kind of behind the bench at the time, trying to not hear those stupid speakers at Northwestern, which were so freaking loud. It was almost poor sportsmanship. But it was a little late. And those are the things that quarterbacks like, especially when you're struggling with an offensive line and remember, we've talked about this before. Sometimes scheme impacts. So there may be some changes that make that look better too. But he's gonna learn to get the ball out quicker, right? And obviously, sometimes getting beat up can have the adverse effects too, because I used to joke around about quarterbacks seeing ghosts. And like my senior year, was totally different than my junior year as far as my offensive line, because a lot of people got hurt my senior year. And when you get hit enough, I mean, I think I got sacked 7 or 8 times against Washington State, and I still see Dwayne Patterson in my dreams sometimes. He hit me so many times. But I had a couple of freshman offensive linemen that ended up being great, by the way. They ended up playing, 4 years later with Cade and did really well. But when you're young, and then I had, guys like Jimmy McElroy, who ended up being a great receiver, but he was a freshman. You have these guys out there playing with you, and you're getting the crap knocked out of you. And the next thing you know, hey, coach is saying, why'd you run there? I'm like, well, because I could feel Dwayne coming after me. And they're like, well, he was blocked right there. Well, if you get hit enough, you start seeing ghosts. And it happens in the NFL. It happens to a lot of young quarterbacks because they're thrust into action, and they play for bad teams. And they develop bad habits. Yeah. And so what we want for Nico is to keep moving forward, keep pocket awareness, because he does a pretty good job of that. I've always said he's got really good feet. Keep working on throwing. Sometimes he drops his arm down a little bit and the ball sails on him. But he's been put in a really tough situation. So I'm going to agree that this is going to show people a lot. But quarterbacks are judged by wins and losses too. So you have to be sometimes I wonder about scouts, because they make mistakes in quarterbacks all the time. I'm like, you really thought that Will Leff, you really thought that Anthony Richardson, you really thought? Because I'm like, I didn't see it. I'm like, I didn't see it going forward, and they see it all the time. And I'm like, maybe the scouts don't know as much as we think they do. But if you watch a quarterback that keeps fighting through a really rough season, especially one that people have challenged their character, and you hear them say the right things over and over and over again, I'm going to say kudos to Nico. Now, he got 8 more games of this.
Yeah.
So hang in there. Because I told you, I talked to him multiple times. I really like him. He's humble. He's a nice guy. And I want to see him succeed. But he's going to, trust me, I've been through winning streaks and losing streaks. When you're losing, it's easy to say the wrong, even as a broadcaster when we're losing, it's easy to want to say the wrong thing or give in to disappointment and anger and frustration. And the next thing you know, you say something you wish you didn't say.
Yeah, makes sense. Wayne, we'll get you out on this because this has been just such an amazing conversation. You're chancellor for a day, and you get 3 wishes, and they will come true to resurrect UCLA football to where we believe it needs to be. What are the 3 things that you would do?
So I would start with something that I hinted at earlier, and it's bothered me for almost 30 years. I really believe that everybody that walks into the athletic department and anybody that's associated with football needs to have 100% buy-in. I don't want people. And it's sad to me because sometimes the people that are the go-getters end up moving on and going other places, and it bothers me because it's like, why do we let that guy go? That guy was fantastic, and I don't think people quite realize that to run a program, everybody matters. That's why in professional organizations, everybody gets a ring. Everybody gets it. And they're like, well, why did the guy that tapes ankles get a ring? Because if you've ever been an athlete, the person that tapes their ankles the best is got the longest line. Like, because they matter, because that helps the players be better. So I want to if it takes hiring someone to come in and really like almost audit the whole system. And again, I don't want anybody to lose their jobs, but at the same time, if you're not doing your job, then that's kind of what happens. That's the world we live in. That's what I learned in sports. If I'm not living up to my end of the bargain, like Terry Donahue pulled me from 2 games my senior year, and he told me flat out, he says, we got to give someone else a chance. Now, the people that replaced me weren't as good, and I got the job back. But I have to look back on that and go, I think it sucks, but I respect it because you have to have results. Everybody should be held accountable. So that would be number one. Top to bottom, I want everybody that works in the athletic department to be accountable for what they do. Okay, that's going to be huge. I'm not going to say the stadium, because I feel like we've been talking about the stadium for 4 decades, the on-campus thing. I still think that Rose Bowl can be great. I still think that all the players that complain about having to travel to the Rose Bowl, to all the fans and all the things that people say about that, I'm like, we hold our athletes so accountable in the media. And yet, it's a Friday night, I don't want to deal with traffic. Like, come on, fans. If you're going to complain about the athletes who want to go out and maybe go on a date with their girlfriend or have a party instead of working out 24 hours a day, maybe you can make it to a game that's once a week, and there's only like 6 of them at home a year. And maybe you can even pay some of your own money and travel and be a part of that too. And I know a lot of you do, but sometimes I think it's funny how one side has to do everything it takes to win, and the other side, can sell their tickets for a Rose Bowl game and make $1,000 instead of showing up to support their team. Like, and I know some of you know what I'm talking about. So, like, all of that stuff to me that matters. I don't even have 3. I would say the coaching hire is going to be crucial. I think that and again, the people that are in charge above the coach matter too. This coach needs to have full support. If the football program doesn't have the support it needs to be successful, the support that programs that are winning have, then we're in trouble.
Yeah.
So, that's you can see where my focus is. I don't want people just clocking in and clocking out. I don't want people going through the motions. I want everybody that's there to be there. Like, one of the articles I read recently talked about a former coach, and they said something along, and it was always one of the anonymous sources, right? A former coach who doesn't want to be named talked about how in a school like UCLA, like, this is the ceiling. Like, if you can get to this, it's pretty good. And I'm like, I don't want that guy. Is Arizona State better than UCLA? They played in the playoff last year. Is Indiana a better school historically than UCLA? They're not. They're not.
The pipeline of Southern California.
Yeah.
We can keep going here. The water, we have advantages, man. So.
Stop being brainwashed by what everybody else tells us. Like, that's the world we live in right now. We live in this world where, like, people tell us what we're supposed to think, and like a bunch of sheep, we just buy into it. I don't care if it's politics or sports or what conference is better than the others. Like, have a brain. Think for yourself. Yeah. And so, like, I want coaches that don't just come in and say, hey, if we win 7 or 8 games, that's great. No, you need to go. Get back on the 405 and get your butt out of here and go back to wherever you're at. I want people coming in that think that we can win and we can be elite. And again, you don't have to win every game in this era. It's actually closer to my era. Because now you can lose 2 or 3 games and still make the playoffs. We saw Ohio State win the national championship doing that last year. I'm actually so happy that you have to be undefeated, especially when everybody plays such different schedules, that now we have a system where more people are going to get a shot. And we already proved just last year that the 4th best team at the end of the season in the Big Ten won the national championship. So it can happen.
No, I love it, Wayne. And let's not forget, I think in '93 you would have been in the playoff with this current format. And to see Wayne Cook in the CFP, that would have been a delight for all Bruin fans everywhere. Oh my goodness. I love it. Well, Wayne, thank you so much as always for everything. Before we go though, we got to pay the bills. You guys see the Sleeper app below. Hit that promo code UCLA LAFB and get $100 off your match bonus. As you know, this year, millions of users enjoyed playing fantasy sports on Sleeper, but the app offers so much more: live stats, a news feed, and a real-time chat. So download the #1 sports app today and experience it for yourself, and tell them the guys at LAFB sent you. Well, Wayne, such a passionate conversation that only you could give us, and only you can give the fan base. It's always such a privilege to have you on. Can't wait to have you on next. And fans, hopefully you're really inspired to hear Wayne. You heard it from three folks that are loud, that are proud, that are passionate Bruins. And like we always say, fours up forever.